Something is seriously wrong in the Aston Martin garage, and everyone can feel it. Montreal added another disappointing result for Lance Stroll, while his teammate kept adding valuable points to the team's tally. The contrast is striking. Although Lance has contributed 14 out of Aston Martin's total 22 points this season, his recent performances raise a big question. Has he completely lost touch with the car? Even he's not hiding it anymore. In a rare and brutally honest interview, Lance opened up about how off the pace he's been, and how the situation doesn't look like it's getting better anytime soon. Could we actually witness the unthinkable? His own father, Lawrence Stroll, pulling the plug on his son's Formula One career? It's a bold thought, but not entirely out of reach. The reality is getting harder to ignore. Right now, Stroll is dragging the team backwards more than he's helping it push forward. While the Canadian driver has had moments of promise, recent events have only deepened concerns. Even after undergoing surgery on his wrist and competing in Barcelona in pain, he hasn't looked close to being back in form. The bigger concern, the team now has to ask some uncomfortable but necessary questions. Is Lance still the right man to drive this car? Fernando Alonso seems to have no such issues. He's found a way to extract performance and has managed to pick up 8 points in just the last couple of races. When Lance was asked about this difference, his response was pretty disheartening. He bluntly said that the car simply works better for Fernando, not for him. That statement speaks volumes. It reflects a driver unsure of what's going wrong, and without a clear path to improvement. When asked about his expectations for Austria, Lance didn't sound optimistic either. He claimed the car suffers from issues that never really go away. According to him, it's a consistent limitation that prevents him from performing. It will probably be the same again, he said, adding that he doesn't really notice any improvement in the car. Alonso might be getting solid results, but Lance says he just feels slow, and he's not wrong. Lance's words carry the weight of someone who has almost accepted that things won't improve. And that's the real concern, not just for him, but for everyone watching. Because in Formula One, if you're not moving forward, you're already falling behind. There are typically 2 reasons a driver fails to adapt. Either he can't match the car's demands, or he simply doesn't put in the extra effort because he feels secure in his position. With Stroll, it's starting to feel more like the second. He's scored points this season, which means he can perform when things click. But when things don't go his way, his focus and attitude seem to shift dramatically. That's where things become dangerous, not in terms of safety, but in terms of team morale and progress. His recent actions both on and off the circuit have painted a picture of a driver running low on patience and maybe even motivation. At the moment, Aston Martin is functioning like a single driver team. They've lost ground in the constructors' standings, a big step down from where they stood just a season ago. It's not entirely on Lance after all. He has more points than Alonso in total. But the current trend is clearly leaning in Fernando's favor, and that contrast only grows with each race. To add to that pressure, Alonso recently commented that being in the points has become almost a regular thing for him. He credited this to strong qualifying sessions. If we weren't starting 6th on the grid, we wouldn't be scoring points, he said. That's a subtle yet important observation. Grid is full of fast cars now. Williams, Haas, and even drivers like Hülkenberg are finding themselves in competitive positions. If Fernando had started 12th or 13th like Lance often does, the outcome would likely be very different, even for him. The key takeaway is clear. Strong qualifying matters more than ever, and right now, Lance is far from delivering that. Stroll's underwhelming qualifying sessions are a problem, but it's not just about being slow. It's about how consistently he falls short, especially during key weekends. Take his home race, for example. Failing to make it out of Q1 in front of your own fans is a tough pill to swallow. That alone would be frustrating for any driver, but the bigger issue is how frequently these low points are occurring. Then came Barcelona, where once again, he failed to make a mark, crashing out in Q2, damaging the car, and showing visible signs of frustration. Lance looked like a driver who might already be emotionally checked out. That's not what a team like Aston Martin needs, especially when they're trying to establish themselves among the top teams in the sport. Some observers are even wondering whether Lance has mentally moved on from Formula One altogether. His involvement in off-road and rally testing last year hinted at a possible shift in interest, and now, with performances declining and pressure mounting, those side activities are beginning to look more like potential escape routes. But the story doesn't stop there. Behind the scenes, the rumor mill has been buzzing. One name that surfaced as a possible replacement? George Russell. Yes, it sounds a bit far-fetched at first. After all, Russell is with Mercedes, a top-tier team. But contracts expire, and plans can shift. He hasn't renewed his deal yet, which leaves the door slightly open. And if you pay close attention to what Russell's been saying, there's no firm commitment from his side. Nothing is 100% certain, he admitted in an interview. While he made it clear he's loyal to Mercedes and grateful for their trust, he also acknowledged that interest from other teams is expected, especially when it comes to drivers performing at a high level. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that Aston Martin could be one of those teams quietly keeping an eye on him, looking at the bigger picture. It's not just about George Russell or any one driver. It's about where Aston Martin wants to go as a team. Right now, they're putting serious resources into developing a competitive car for 2026, and they'll need drivers who can extract the most out of it, both technically and mentally, if they want to become regular contenders at the front of the grid. Then keeping someone who isn't progressing becomes a risk. And even though Lawrence Stroll owns the team, he's not the only one involved in critical decisions anymore. Big players are in the mix now. One of them is Adrian Newey, one of the most respected technical minds in the sport. His presence alone signals how serious Aston Martin is about becoming a title-challenging outfit. And it doesn't stop there. Honda is coming in as their engine supplier starting in 2026. And if past partnerships are any indication, Honda will have a strong influence in shaping the team, including input on the driver lineup. Koji Watanabe, president of Honda Racing, has already made it clear that they want a say in who's behind the wheel. They did it with Red Bull, and there's no reason to think they won't do it again here. That means Lance's seat may no longer be protected, not even by his father. Yes, there's still a possibility that Lance sees the writing on the wall and manages to turn things around. He's shown flashes of potential in the past, but judging by how things are going, those moments are becoming fewer and farther between. His history in F1 has been littered with careless moments and emotional outbursts. That includes incidents like the one at the Brazilian Grand Prix, where he ran off during the formation lap and couldn't recover. It looked like a small mistake, but it reflected a bigger issue, a lack of focus and consistency. When it matters most, Lance's issues haven't just been limited to racing mistakes. His attitude off the track has also drawn attention for the wrong reasons. At last year's Qatar Grand Prix, after another early exit in qualifying, he physically shoved his trainer out of frustration. That wasn't just a moment of anger. It reflected a deeper frustration building up inside him, and at some point, the question becomes unavoidable. Is he still passionate about racing, or is he simply going through the motions? Being in Formula One is about much more than having a fast car or a famous last name. It takes commitment, mental resilience, and the ability to constantly evolve. Unfortunately, Stroll's recent performances and reactions suggest a driver who may be feeling more trapped than driven. Let's also not forget the speculation surrounding his future. During the 2023 Singapore Grand Prix, there were whispers that even his own mother had urged Lawrence to let Lance follow his own path, outside of Formula One. That's not just gossip. It could be a glimpse into the reality behind the scenes. One where Lance isn't entirely sure this is where he still belongs. His behavior toward the crew hasn't helped either. From radio complaints to frustration-fueled actions in the garage, these moments create tension in a team that's trying to build a winning culture. That energy matters. When a driver brings the whole team down emotionally, it affects development, morale, and performance. And now, the team faces a serious decision. Should they continue to invest time and resources into someone whose commitment is in question, or is it time to look ahead to someone who's hungry, focused, and aligned with where Aston Martin wants to be? Names like George Russell and even long shots like Max Verstappen will continue to float around. But regardless of who steps in, the point remains. Aston Martin can't afford to carry dead weight if they want to climb higher. So the big question remains, is Lance Stroll nearing the end of his time at Aston Martin, or will he find a way to change the story before it's written for him? Let us know what you think.